Welcome to Running on Reddit. r/JUSTNOMIL, where mother-in-laws are a piece of work and just plain old nasty. This is mostly a rant, but it's also a good laugh at the whole situation that has unfolded. My mother-in-law is insufferable, controlling, and suffers from fear of missing out. My dear husband is 30 today. We are having a pretty big party to celebrate it over the weekend. You're only 31's right. My mother-in-law decided that she would be going on a cruise right when it was dear husband's birthday. We saw her for my sister-in-law's birthday earlier in the year, and that's when she announced she wouldn't be here for his 30th. Her words: "Dear husband doesn't have a super great relationship with his mom, so he wasn't sad by the news. But she also must have thought that because she wasn't around we wouldn't have a party." Yeah, right. So the next time we see them, we give the family invites to dear husband's birthday party. It's themed. It's gonna be great. Mother-in-law's reaction was priceless. She went from bragging about her trip to almost crying about how she was so sorry she wouldn't be here for dear husband's birthday, and she hadn't realized it was coming up, and that it was also a milestone. Mother-in-law is a complete hypocrite. He's your son, you know, and you chose not to be here. Well, since then she has been constantly asking for details about the party. Because of this sub, we have learned to grey rock, so no issue there. She was adamant on FaceTiming during the party, so she would be included. This is in no way happening. I believe the saying is, play bad games, win bad prizes. Edit: mother-in-law is currently on her cruise. Yeah, that mother-in-law didn't get her way. Did she really think she could schedule a cruise and have everyone at home not enjoy themselves? Obligatory first post, long time lurker. I have a huge history of issues with my mother-in-law. We've gone no contact before because of them. Some of them have stomped the line of jocasta behavior. Maybe I'll make them a series one day, but today I just want to share a sweet little bit from today. My mother-in-law is visiting from very far away this week, and she took us out to lunch at our favorite Japanese and Thai restaurant. You order from an iPad and most of the servers speak little to no English. You get the idea. She's an ignorant woman, so she made some unpleasant comments to some of the staff there. She deserved what they gave her. We had my 9-month-old with us, and when we went up to the counter to pay, the waitress asked if the baby was mine. She had been swooning over him the entire time we were there, and I love showing off my cute boy. My mother-in-law immediately interjects, "No, that's my baby." This blessed lady looks at her in the eyes, smiling, and says, "No, you're too old. I don't think I've ever been happier in my life." That waitress was absolutely savage. Would have loved to have been there. My husband and I have been married for 21 years. We have 2 children, both boys. My oldest joined the military last August and my youngest is still in high school. My mother-in-law has a history of boundary stomping and guilt trips. She even says she has special nana privileges that override mom's rules. When my son left for basic training, I made a family group chat to share photos his command shared while he was in boot camp. Prior to leaving, my son specifically requested to us that we not share his pictures on social media. He has never liked social media and has never had social media accounts. We told him that we would not share his pictures. I told everyone in the group chat that they were not to post or share any of the photos that we sent in the chat, and we didn't have any issues until 2 weeks in, when mother-in-law posted a picture to Facebook. I told her to remove it immediately and said that she was not to do that again. She called my husband crying and told him I was being mean to her and that she was having such a hard time with her baby in boot camp. My husband told her to suck it up and take the picture down. She did take it down, but not without a guilt trip about how terrible I am and how disrespectful I'm of her feelings. Last week my son made E3 and sent me a selfie from his advanced individual training. I shared it with the group chat, and within a half hour it was posted to my mother-in-law's Facebook, and she included the base he was stationed at and what he was training for. I went ballistic. I called her immediately and told her to take the picture down and delete the post. I blocked her and my father-in-law from the group chat. I told her, since she can't listen, she doesn't get to be part of the chat. She went insane, calling my husband and even my mother to tell them how evil I was. My husband told her that he didn't care, he wanted to block her the first time. So she made this long post on Facebook about how I am tearing her world apart and keeping her from her baby when he needs her. She even has the nerve to call my son crying in advanced individual training to tell him, and he basically told her to shove off and listen next time. I feel like I'm living in a cartoon with some blundering villain. It's very odd. Thank you for listening. It's nice to be able to vent about the crazy. That isn't OP being disrespectful. That is the mother-in-law stepping all over the son's specific request. She deserved to get blocked, especially after already being warned the first time. I wear wigs for medical reasons. My mother-in-law knows, as she lived next door to us for a year or two, as I transitioned into different styles. She has known about this for about 6 years, and never told a soul, allegedly. Aside from my family and a friend, no one else on my husband's side knows. I prefer it that way. I have never had an issue with her, and always considered her a second mother. We attended a wedding last night, and as we were saying our goodbyes, my husband's grandmother commented in front of the table, "I had no idea that wasn't your real hair. I never knew you wore wigs." I shot a look over at mother-in-law, who looked like she had eaten a fly. With 8 of my closest family on my husband's side at that table, I stared directly into her eyes as I said, "Oh, it is my hair. It is. I bought it." I'm stunned this was dinner talk, that my appearance was of conversation, and that mother-in-law took it upon herself to reveal something so incredibly personal. If it was her goal to embarrass and shame, she was successful. I feel about an inch tall. I did my best to not cry on the car ride home, and debating how to handle this. Husband agrees mother-in-law requires recalibration and a solid duck. That mother-in-law really knows how to cross the line. If you like the content and want to support the channel, like and subscribe right now, or you'll be running on fumes. Mother-in-law and I got along just fine until the birth of my son. Then she overstepped by far. Months before I was going to give birth, she and her entire family were wanting to know when they should buy plane tickets so they could all come to be with us when my son arrived. They all wanted to be in the hospital when I had the baby and see me right after and hold my son and stay at our house and help. My husband didn't understand why I had a problem with this at the time and said it was part of his culture to do this. Well, praise God I had my son 2 weeks early, so none of my in-laws invaded my space at the hospital, and I could spend my birthing and recovery experience with just my baby and my husband. Only my mom came to help us for 2 weeks before mother-in-law arrived and stayed for 2 months. She bought a one-way ticket and then just didn't leave for a very long time. There were, of course, the small things. She somehow made it through medical school and is a practicing MD, but many things happened that made me lose respect for her as a doctor, which I can go into in another post because there is just so much. She grew up with maids and never had to cook or clean. She doesn't know how. So her helping was not helping. She just came because she wanted to size me up as a mother and make sure I wasn't going to hurt her first grandbaby. My husband went to work every day, so it was just me and her and my son alone at home for 2 months. I felt constantly observed and quietly judged. I couldn't get away from her. The big issue was with me feeding my son. What enraged me more than anything was her little comments about my breastfeeding. How much milk did he drink? Maybe his baby acne is because you're sweating on his face when you're breastfeeding? Didn't you just feed him? Oh wow, he's hungry again already. He sure eats a lot. How much milk does he drink a day? You should feed him less often. He has gas. She was convinced that I was overfeeding him and stuffing milk down his throat. Whenever my baby was fussy or had hiccups or was colicky, she would make a little comment about how it was from my breastfeeding. Her babies were raised on formula. I just fed my baby as much as he wanted and as often as he wanted day and night, and I had terrific supply and didn't feel the need to count ounces because breastfeeding worked great for both of us and my baby was chubby and healthy. However, she thought he was too chubby and I was overfeeding him. From my understanding, for newborns, all the books and doctors will tell you to wake baby after 2 to 3 hours to feed. Mother-in-law disagreed with this. She would purposefully hold my baby and shush and rock him to sleep and keep him asleep for as long as possible in her arms and make me feel guilty if I asked for my baby. She would get so upset when I took him from her to feed him after 2 hours. One day, this escalated and she threw a little hissy fit. She held my baby, who kept waking up and fussing because he was hungry, and it had been 2 hours, then 3, and then 4 hours of him waking, fussing, and then her rocking him back to sleep and shushing him. I knew he was hungry, and I had so much milk. I walked up to her and said, "I'll take him now. I think he's hungry." She looks at me angrily and defensively, as if she's guarding my son from harm, and says, "No, he's fine." I say, "Give me my son, he's hungry." She says again, "No, he's fine," and turns away from me. I'm getting angry. "Give him to me. I want to feed my son. It's been 4 hours." "Shush, he's tired, he's sleeping, he's fine. If he sleeps all day and doesn't eat, he's going to be awake all night and hungry. Give me my son," I say forcefully. I take him from her, and she doesn't say a word. She just makes a pouty hurt face and goes up to her 3rd floor guest room. I don't see her until my husband comes home. I tell my husband what his mom did and said, "No one tells me when and how much I can feed my son." She didn't cross me again like that, but she silently watched and judged every single time I breastfed him in front of her. My son is almost 1 now. The breastfeeding is still going strong, and I have a perfectly healthy and happy little boy in every way. This incident with mother-in-law is something I have never been able to get over though, and I don't think I ever will. I can never forget how she tried to hold him hostage from me and prevent me from feeding him when he was hungry. Unless the baby is actually in harm's way or in danger, the mother-in-law didn't really have a leg to stand on. Let me know in the comments down below if you think formula is better or worse. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on the bell or you'll be running on fumes. See you in the next video.